Somewhere in the upper Midwest, on a Saturday morning in late March, a homeowner is going to walk down the stairs to their basement and find 3 inches of standing water on the finished floor. They will call the first plumber in their phone. The plumber will tell them it is not a plumbing issue. They will call a foundation contractor. The contractor will arrive on Monday, walk the perimeter, run a scope camera into what used to be the drain tile, and write an estimate between $18,000 and $24,000. The number that shows up on that invoice, according to HomeAdvisor, basement waterproofing, cost data for 2024 averages $21,000. Before the mold remediation, before the flooring replacement, before the insurance denial letter that informs the homeowner that gradual water damage is not a covered event. That invoice was not made inevitable in March. It was made inevitable the previous October, on a Saturday afternoon, when the same homeowner looked at the gutters full of leaves, looked at the sump pump that had not been tested since the house was bought, looked at the hairline crack running down the corner of the poured concrete wall, and decided to deal with all of it in the spring. By the spring, it was already too late. This video is about the 4 things you need to do in your basement before the ground freezes this year. Each of them takes less than an hour and a half. The combined material cost is under $300 at any Home Depot or Lowe's in America. Every single one of them is documented in the International Residential Code, and every single one of them is skipped by roughly 60% of American homeowners every year. The other 40% will not be in my video next March. What you're about to see is one of 73 failures documented in the American Homeowners Field Guide, linked in the first line of the description below. I will come back to the guide in a moment. First, I need to show you exactly what gets locked into place the night the ground freezes, and what cannot be undone until the spring thaw 18 weeks later. The $21,000 invoice is not the contractor's fault. The contractor is doing real work. Interior weeping tile installation, sump pit excavation, membrane application, concrete repour. That work is labor intensive and it has to be done right the first time. The contractor is not the villain. The villain is the gap between what the homeowner could have done for under $300 in October and what the contractor has to do for $21,000 in April. That gap exists because no one teaches the first part. There is no money in teaching the first part. There is enormous money in performing the second part. The basement waterproofing industry in the United States generates a reported $6.4 billion a year, according to IBISWorld market reports. Every single dollar of that revenue depends on homeowners not knowing the 4 things I'm about to show you. 4 things. That is the entire checklist for before winter. Gutters and downspouts that actually move water away from the house. Grading around the foundation that still slopes the right direction after 20 years of settling. A sump pump that has been tested in the last 90 days and has a working battery backup. Every visible crack in your foundation wall sealed before water turns to ice inside it. Miss 1, pay thousands. Miss all 4, pay what the homeowner in my opening is about to pay. The International Residential Code, Section R4, 01.3, requires surface drainage to slope away from the foundation at a minimum of 6 inches over the first 10 feet. Section R4, 05, requires a drainage system around any concrete or masonry foundation that encloses habitable space below grade. Section R4, 06, requires foundation waterproofing in areas of high water table. These are not suggestions, these are law. The builder who built your house complied with these codes on the day of the final inspection. What I am about to show you is what happens over the following 15 to 30 years, when no one maintains the systems the builder originally installed. Pause for 15 seconds. What I just described is failure number 19 in the American Homeowners Field Guide. 73 documented failures across residential construction in the United States. Foundation drainage collapses, sump pump battery failures, rim joist rot, frost heave cracking, drain tile clogs, slab cracking from missing vapor barriers, wood rot from wrong grade pressure treated lumber, electrical panel failures, aluminum branch wiring fires, each failure with the exact product name at Home Depot, Lowe's, or Menards, the real material cost, and the contractor markup when you have to fix it under spring emergency. The field guide is $27. The repair on the failure you just heard about averages $21,000, and that is before the mold remediation that always follows. The link is the first line in the description of this video. 1 access. Permanently. Now back to what actually has to happen this weekend in your basement before the ground freezes. The first failure, and the one that causes more basement flooding than the other 3 combined. Gutters and downspouts that do not move water away from the foundation. A typical suburban home in the Midwest has around 40 linear feet of gutter and 3 to 5 downspouts. Those gutters collect roughly 600 gallons of water during a single 1-inch rainfall. The downspouts release that water at ground level, at the corner of the house, directly above the backfill zone where the excavation for the foundation was originally dug. The backfill zone is the weakest point of your foundation's drainage. It is the trench that was dug around the perimeter when the foundation was poured and then refilled with loose soil after the walls cured. Even after 40 years, that backfill is measurably more permeable than the undisturbed clay around it. Water released at the corner of the house, hitting that backfill, does not spread sideways across your yard. It goes straight down along the wall to the footing, and it stays there until it finds a crack, a weep hole that has silted over, or a section of drain tile that has collapsed or clogged with fine sediment. In the summer, this is a slow problem. In the winter, this is a catastrophic problem. The water at the footing freezes, ice expands, roughly 9% by volume. That expansion, repeated across 40 to 60 freeze-thaw cycles in a typical Minnesota or Michigan or Wisconsin winter, widens every existing crack in the wall and creates new ones. By April, when the real thaw arrives, the wall has been pre-broken for you. The first warm rain finds every new entry point simultaneously. One more time, 73 failures, one link, $27. The link is in the description. Every day this video stays online. By conservative industry estimates, more than 11,000 American basements are actively taking on water right now, and the owners have no idea. Read the field guide tonight. Tomorrow morning, walk your foundation. You will find at least one of the 73 in your own house. Here is what you do before the ground freezes. Walk your foundation perimeter this Saturday morning. Clean every gutter with a scoop and a garden hose. Run water from the hose into the uphill end of each gutter and watch where it exits. If you see water sheeting over the front lip, the gutter is pitched wrong. If you see water pouring out of a seam, the seam needs sealed with gutter lap sealant, $4, a tube at any hardware store. Now look at where each downspout releases water. If the downspout releases within 3 feet of the foundation, you have the failure. The fix is a downspout extension, 6-inch corrugated black drain pipe, available at any Home Depot in 10-foot sections for around $14 per section. You want every downspout releasing water a minimum of 6 feet from the foundation, 10 feet if you can get it. The extensions snap onto the existing downspout elbow. No tools required for the pop on variety. A screw and a tube of sealant for the permanent attachment. Total material cost for a typical home, between $45 and $80. Total labor time, under 1 hour. This one fix alone, done correctly and maintained each fall, eliminates roughly half of all basement water intrusion cases, according to the Building Science Corporation's Foundation Performance Field Studies. The second failure. The ground around your house has slowly tilted toward the foundation over the last 20 years, and you never noticed. When your house was built, the final grade around the foundation was pitched away from the wall at the required 6 inches of drop over the first 10 feet. That is International Residential Code Section R401.3. The builder did it right. What the builder cannot control is what happens over the next 20 years. Soil settles, landscaping gets added, mulch piles up against the siding year after year, the driveway edge sinks, the sidewalk heaves. Every one of these small events flattens the grade by a 1/4 inch here, 1/2 inch there. After 20 years, in roughly 60% of American homes, per the American Society of Home Inspectors field data, the grade has reversed. Water now runs toward the foundation instead of away from it. Walk the perimeter of your house this weekend with a 4-foot carpenter's level. Lay the level on the ground perpendicular to the wall, with one end touching the foundation. If the bubble is not showing the far end higher than the foundation end, you have negative grading. You do not need surveying equipment to confirm this. The level tells you everything in 30 seconds per side. The fix is topsoil and time. A cubic yard of screened topsoil at Home Depot costs around $40 delivered to your driveway. You will need between 1 and 3 cubic yards, depending on how bad the reversal is. You spread it in a slope away from the foundation, maintaining a minimum of 6 inches of drop over the first 10 feet out from the wall. Then you compact it with a hand tamper or a rented plate compactor. Then you cover with grass seed or a ground cover to hold it in place through winter. Total material cost for a typical home, between $80 and $140. Total labor time, 2 to 4 hours depending on your fitness and how much soil needs moved. Contractor regrading price, because some companies do this professionally, between $2,000 and $6,000 for a typical lot. The contractor is not lying about that price. Professional regrading involves surveying equipment, a skid steer, truck time, and an implied warranty on the result. That work is real work and has to be priced accordingly. But for a homeowner who can read a 4-foot level and move soil with a wheelbarrow, the same job is a Saturday afternoon. The third failure, the sump pump you have not tested since the house inspection the day you bought the place. If you have a basement anywhere in the Midwest, the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, or anywhere east of the Rockies with seasonal groundwater, you almost certainly have a sump pump. That pump sits in a plastic or fiberglass pit in the lowest corner of your basement floor. Most of the year, it does nothing. During the spring thaw and a wet spring, that pump runs constantly for 4 to 10 days. The average residential sump pump has a service life of 7 to 10 years, according to testing data published by the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors. Roughly half of all basement flooding in April in the upper Midwest happens because a pump that had been sitting idle for years finally got asked to perform, and the motor seized on the first attempt, or the float switch had calcified and stuck in the down position, or the check valve was stuck open and the water it was pumping kept falling back into the pit, or the discharge line was frozen because it exits above the frost line, and nobody tells homeowners that discharge lines need to slope down and out at a minimum below the frost depth for the region. Here's what you do this weekend. Pour 5 gallons of water into the sump pit. A 5-gallon bucket from any hardware store for $4. Watch what happens. The pump should kick on within a few seconds. Once the float rises, run for 30 to 60 seconds, and shut itself off cleanly once the pit is empty. If it does not kick on, the float switch is bad or the motor is gone. If it runs but does not pump any water, the impeller is stripped or the check valve has failed. If it pumps water but you cannot hear water exiting the discharge line outside the house, the line is blocked, crushed, or already frozen somewhere in the run. A replacement 1/3 horsepower cast iron submersible sump pump at Home Depot costs between $140 and $260. The Zoller M53 is the benchmark homeowner grade model. The Liberty 257 is the equivalent at the lower end. Either one, installed by the homeowner, takes about 45 minutes and 2 standard pipe wrenches. The second thing you want, and this is the piece that 90% of homes do not have, is a battery backup. A 12-volt deep cycle marine battery, a dedicated backup pump, and a float switch that kicks the backup on automatically if the primary pump fails or the power goes out during the storm that is about to flood your basement. The exact storm that takes down the power in a wet April is the exact storm that floods the basement. A complete battery backup sump system at Home Depot or Menards runs between $250 and $600. The Wayne ESP25 is the common homeowner grade kit. The PHCC Pro Series is the upgraded version with longer runtime and a wireless alarm that texts your phone when the backup is running. Contractor price for a full primary plus backup installation under spring emergency service call, between $1,900 and $3,400. The material cost for that contractor is the same $500 you would pay at Home Depot. The rest is labor, overhead, weekend emergency rate, and the margin they earn because you called them at midnight during a thunderstorm. The fourth failure. The hairline crack you have been ignoring in the corner of the poured concrete wall for the last 3 years. Every poured concrete foundation cracks. That is not a defect. That is concrete behaving as concrete has always behaved. The cracks form as the concrete cures, as the house settles on its footings, and as the wall expands and contracts through decades of seasonal temperature swings. A hairline crack, meaning less than 1/16 of an inch wide, is structurally normal in a typical poured basement wall and is not a sign of foundation failure by itself. What is not normal is water moving through that crack, and water will move through every unsealed foundation crack every spring, whether you see it inside the basement or not. Water enters the crack from the soil side, water freezes, ice expands by 9%, the crack opens a fraction wider. Next year, more water enters, more freezing, more expansion. In 7 to 15 years, depending on your climate and your drainage, that hairline crack is now a 1/4 inch wide, actively leaking, and the wall around it is spalling from the freeze-thaw damage to the concrete itself. The fix before winter, polyurethane crack injection, available as a complete homeowner kit at Home Depot, Menards, and Amazon for between $75 and $140. The Emicol 121 kit is the industry standard product. The SealBoss 1510 is the equivalent. The kit includes the 2-part polyurethane resin, the surface-mounted injection ports, the paste to hold the ports against the wall, and the dispensing gun. The procedure takes between 90 minutes and 2 hours per crack. You glue the injection ports along the length of the crack, spaced 6 inches apart. You let the surface paste cure for the time printed on the kit, usually about 30 minutes. You inject the polyurethane under pressure, starting at the lowest port, waiting for the resin to appear at the next port above before moving up. The polyurethane reacts with any moisture inside the crack and expands to fill the full depth of the concrete wall. It seals permanently, and it remains flexible, which is critical because the wall continues to move seasonally. A rigid epoxy will seal the crack and then crack itself a year later as the wall flexes. Polyurethane moves with the wall. Contractor price for the same repair for a typical 8-foot tall vertical crack, between $750 and $1,800. Their material cost is the same $75 in polyurethane you would pay at the store. The rest is the hour and a half of labor, their insurance overhead, and the margin they earned because the homeowner did not know this product was sold directly to the public. Every single one of these 4 failures follows the exact same pattern. A system that worked fine when it was installed. A maintenance action that costs under $100 and takes under 2 hours. An American homeowner who was never told the maintenance action existed. And a repair invoice that arrives the following April for thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. Gutters, grading, sump pump, crack ceiling. 4 things. One Saturday morning, under $300 in materials. The prevention of a $21,000 spring invoice that, according to HomeAdvisor data for 2024, is the average cost of a reactive basement waterproofing project in the United States right now. And this is only 4 of the 73 failures documented in the field guide. The other 69 are the ones that destroy attic insulation through ice damming, rot rim joists from condensation, crack stucco from missing weep screeds, burn down houses from a failing Federal Pacific stab lock panels, and in 11 documented cases across Pacific Gas and Electric, Duke Energy, and Consolidated Edison service territories over the last 20 years, killed the people who lived in the house. Every one of those failures preventable for less than the cost of a single emergency contractor call. I want to be clear about what the field guide is and what it is not. It is not a substitute for a licensed structural engineer if your foundation already shows signs of active movement, such as horizontal cracks, stair-step cracks in block walls, or floor sloping you can feel under your feet. It is not a substitute for a licensed plumber when the problem is inside the copper or the PEX. It is not legal advice for suing the builder who signed the certificate of occupancy on your house in 1997 and dissolved the LLC 2 years later. What the field guide actually is the list of 73 maintenance and inspection actions that 19 out of 20 American homeowners have never heard of, and that 95% of general contractors will never tell you about because their entire revenue model depends on you not knowing. There are 3 more basement failures I could not fit in this video. Rim joist insulation before the first deep freeze, and why uninsulated rim joists are the single largest source of heat loss in American basements. Window well drainage that nobody checks until the window well fills with leaves in November and freezes into a solid block of ice against a basement egress window. Dryer vent termination into the rim joist cavity, which is illegal under International Residential Code Section M1502.3, and which rots the framing from inside the wall for years before anyone notices. All 3 are in the pinned comment below, with the exact material cost and contractor markup for each one. Click the pinned comment now. You have 2 options when this video ends. Option 1, close the tab. Tell yourself you will deal with the gutters next weekend. Assume the sump pump still works because it has been sitting there since 2015 and you have never heard a problem. Hope that the crack in the corner of the wall is not actively getting wider right now under the snow that is about to fall. Hope the weather this spring is dry. Option 2, this Saturday, 4 things. Gutters, grading, sump pump with battery backup, crack seal, under $300 in materials, 3 to 5 hours of your life. You will not be one of the 11,000 American basements flooding this April. The contractor is not coming to your house in October to tell you about any of this. The builder who poured your foundation in 1997 is not calling you. The inspector who signed the final in 2003 is retired in Florida. The only person who's going to protect your basement this winter is you, starting this weekend, with the link in the description. This channel investigates 1 American residential construction failure every week, 1 failure per video, 1 field guide that documents all 73 of them, linked in the first line of the description below. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so the next investigation reaches you before the next failure reaches your basement, your attic, your panel, or your foundation. The next video might be about the part of your house you have not thought about in years, the one that is about to cost you what the homeowner in my opening is about to pay, what they built, what they hid, what you need to know now before the ground freezes,